The Intellivision Plus is coming out third quarter 2026. Oh yeah, that's what I think. And I'm going to tell you why. What do you know about the Cobra Commander? What did you know?
Make sure you like and subscribe. Now let's get the video started.
Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. Today we're going to talk about the Intellivision Plus, the one that you didn't get. The one that people are clamoring for. Guys, when it comes to business, we don't think in a binary, right? Business operates assessing risk. That's what we do all the time. It doesn't matter if it's engineering. It doesn't matter if it's a product that you want to build. It doesn't matter if it's quality. You always have to assess risk. Now, it's easy to sit back and say these greedy companies, this greedy corporation, this and that and the other. Let me ask you, if you're going to invest $1 million, how do you think it would go? Right? Most people would say, well, I invest $1 million, and if a console doesn't work, I'm going to lose $1 million. It's not the way it works in business. In business, you can invest $1 million and lose much more. You can invest $1 million to make a product and lose another 200. Usually people get fired for that, but that can happen, right? If you don't do the right business plan, your whole plan, right, your whole project can just gets buried into the ground. Ask the Intellivision Amico. But I don't think that's going to happen here with the Intellivision Plus. And let me tell you why. From everything that I see, they're pretty much the star of PRGE, at least for the retro community. People that don't even talk about Intellivision, that haven't talked about it since Tommy Tallarico, are talking about this Intellivision Plus. More people are mentioning it. People that don't even think about those type of consoles are talking about it. That's a good thing. That means it made a good impression and it's what the people want. Now, my prediction is that the first run is going to sell out based on the interest that I see so far. It's an educated guess, right? I'm going to break down a couple of principles for you, like assessing risk of, how businesses think, not in a binary, right? Because it's easy, right? It's easy for us to sit back and say, so-and-so is greedy, this product is too much, this product is a ripoff, whatever. Well, if you're investing $1 million and you could lose another $200,000, how much would you charge for the product? You would want to make that money as soon as possible, right? You don't want to lose $1,200,000, right? Because maybe you borrowed it. Now you're in debt. Not only did you lose it, you owe it, right? You're in the hole. And you're in a hole more than the production runs because you had lazy employees, because you had liabilities that you didn't think about and properly plan products, stuff like that. Atari is not one of those companies, let me tell you. From what I've seen, they measure 3 times before they cut once. And that's a good thing. And because of that, because of the patterns of business that I've seen that they've had in the past before, I'm going to give you this educated guess. Give or take 6 months. But I'm telling you, the Intellivision Plus is coming out. For those of you who are heartbroken that are not going to, buy this because it doesn't have a cart, I think enough people will buy it that it will lower the risk on the second product. Everything is about risk, right? If you think about it now, this product, all the engineering is done. All the engineering as far as the software. It doesn't matter what you think of your old Intellivision consoles and these games. These consoles are basically just dumping ROMs and playing it on an emulator. That's what they're doing, right? It's not like playing in original hardware. For that reason, all the software is done pretty much, right? All you would have to work on is in the engineering for the cartridge. And that cartridge should have a couple of options. That's why I put the picture up there. Remember that old adapter that Intellivision made, just like a Leica, so you could play 2600 games?
Alright guys, let me break it down for you as best as I can here in simplifying it. If you're looking at this chart here, if you're looking for example at the blue line, that's the high price that you can charge per unit depending on how many you're making, and the yellow line is the lowest price that you could charge depending how many units you're going to make, right? You always want to be towards the higher side. There's always a median, of course, that sweet spot. But here you can see a lot of questions answered. For example, why is the Intellivision Amico, why was it priced at $330? Well, they're going off the basis of 6,000 units to recover some of the cost, because that's all they could muster up, right? And people are asking for refunds. Well, if you're only gonna sell 6,000 units, then your story becomes a lot different, right? It becomes a lot different than if you were selling 20,000 units, because if you're only selling 6,000 units, for example, the suggested retail price, if your estimated cost of building these things is $1.5 million, the retail price should be from $250 to $325. $325 if you want to make some money, because your break-even point is $250, and that's already pushing it, for a console that people perceive should be worth $150, right? That is really the gist of a lot of these companies' problems. Well, what if you make 10,000 units, right? Then your costs run up to $1.8 million. Now, how am I calculating these costs, guys? I'm calculating these costs based on a console that's in between the Amico and the Atari Plus, right? I don't know their figures. I'm just giving you a calculation. This is all for mathematical purposes. But based on the prices that companies want to charge, this is a pretty good guess, right? And also depending on the amount of units they want to sell. Well, what if you make 20,000 units? Well, your costs are now up to $2 million, right? And you have to recoup that money somewhere, right? Nobody's going to give you $2 million for free, and you have to look for your break-even points. Your break-even point, for example, on the 6,000 units is over above $250, right? And if you make 10,000 units at $249, you're making a small profit. But once you get it to the 20,000 unit mark, charging $199, $249, you're making a solid profit, right? And you have to make profit in order to risk this much money, right? If I told you take $2 million from your own bank account and go make a console, how much are you going to sell them for? Are you going to sell them for $199, knowing that you could risk up losing 20% more of what you're actually investing, right? That's what you have to look at. But overall, I just want to break down what the picture is for you. What is the real cost? The reality of building anything, in this case, hardware, it's not nostalgia, it's math. It's forecasting, right? And when you do the dream versus the math, the dream is simple. I want to build a new Intellivision console that works like the old one, make it HDMI, let it play every cartridge in my box of memories, whatever that is. But the math is not that simple. The only real sales data comes from the failed Intellivision Amico, which only reached about 6,000 pre-orders before it completely collapsed. That gives you a starting point. But with only 6,000 confirmed buyers at that point, those production volumes are low. You have to remember, the Intellivision was not the most popular console. It holds a deep nostalgia for a lot of people, but it was never number one, right? So they don't have as much cachet as an Atari does or other companies do. And you have to calculate what it really costs to make hardware. Creating a new console means electronic design, circuit prototyping, tooling for the plastic cases, controllers, firmware, interface development, safety checks, radio frequency certifications, packaging, logistics, right? So a small unit run cost consists between 200 and 250 each before you're looking at profit. That's just cost, right, for small production runs. So that's where you get that total, that puts your total spending at near 1.5 million, right? If you're doing things right, to break even, you would need to match the 250 level. And if you want to put a 30% buffer in there for any contingencies, your risk, right, then that raises it to 325 for a business proposition, and people are complaining for $149.99 as being too expensive, right? They completely overlook how the math scales, and it's risk and return. Every investor has one question: why take a risk when my bank is going to pay me 5% at this point? So if you invest $1 million and just leave it in the bank, you don't lose anything, right? But if you invest $1 million in a console, you can lose your $1 million plus overruns. That's another $200K. So how do you justify that risk? How do you go to somebody and say, I want you to risk $1 million with a chance of you losing another 200,000? Right? So the target has to exceed 20% just to make it feasible, right? Because if you can't do that, the only smart move is not to invest. Risk management, guys, it's not greed, it's survival.
Well, guys, that was it. That's the business proposition. Am I a betting man? Of course I am. How much would I bet? $5. With myself, right? It's just an educated guess. But given Atari's trajectory, given what I've seen from them before, I think this is a very, very good guess. I might be off by 6 months, but based on the response, based on the fact that I see, and I don't know about what you guys think, but I think everybody else in the community thinks that the Intellivision Sprint stole the show. That's what every retro gamer was talking about. That's what every video on my feed shows. Even people that have never talked about the Intellivision are talking about it. So hey, it is what it is.
So there's my case. I believe the Intellivision Plus is going to launch in the third quarter of next year, 2026.
Well, guys, that's the breakdown. Is it a guarantee? No. But it's a very good, educated guess. I hope you got to see behind the scenes what some of the bean counters in the background are talking about, right? When they're developing these consoles, when they're trying to set a price, when they're trying to set expectations, and overall, when they try to make it a success, a business success for them and an entertainment success for us. All right, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Hey guys, thank you for watching. Hey, you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button and join if you can.